baptized, and you get a free trip to heavenly planets for 3 years. No, the rules are right there. It's up to us to discover what those rules are and apply them in our life. And if we don't worry, because someone else is going to tell us what their rules are. The whole material creation is full of people telling us what to do. And if you don't believe me, just try to remember when you grew up, the teacher said 1 + 1 is equal to 2. And if you said it was 3, they didn't accept it. You were there in the classroom until you finally accepted, yeah, all right, 1 + 1 is equal to 2. Similarly, your parents said, wash your hands before you eat. Hopefully they said that. And if you didn't do that, they reminded you. And if they didn't do that, maybe they smacked you, rascal. Want to try again? Sure, okay. So everyone's telling us what to do. And either directly or indirectly. And either we're listening to them or we're doing the opposite, which is another way of following their instructions. Do the opposite. They tell you jump, and you forward, and you can jump backwards just to disobey them. But you're following them, directly or indirectly. You're responding to them. So actually everyone is a servant. Either we serve favorably or we serve unfavorably. If you want to agitate someone, they say jump, and you just stand there as if they didn't exist. That's what really makes people disturbed. I remember when I was in the airport in Los Angeles, for some reason or another, we got gradually restricted, and the only place that we weren't so restricted was the international airport. And international airport, they had mostly Asians coming through, and especially the Japanese are expert at ignoring you. So if you want to get frustrated, just go to a place where 500 people come through and all of them pretend that you didn't even exist. Maybe if you jumped on them and beat them a few times, they'd say, oh. Other than that, they just ignore you. So you'd have to wait till the last person who didn't notice that everyone else ignored you, the last Asian who came through, and then you'd stop them. They'd feel, oh, okay, I feel obliged to stop. So in the material world, everyone is responding either positively or negatively, and sometimes people are aloof. And that's generally what people don't like when you're aloof. They don't even recognize your existence. In any case, people are not taught to be aloof in the modern culture. They're taught either to like something strongly or to dislike it strongly. Or as I mentioned before, when Sridhar Maharaj was at Woodstock, and he was giving a lecture about following the regular principles, 4 regular principles, especially at Woodstock in Poland, all the young people are usually intoxicated. So one of the regular principles is no intoxication. Obviously, it wasn't a popular theme not to take intoxication at Woodstock. And so one person threw a beer can at him. And he picked it up and looked at it and said, it's not my brand. So everyone's get a reaction. People are not expecting that kind of reaction. Now, Krishna, he says he doesn't react. That he controls, but on the basis of people's activities, not on the basis of his personal feelings. That he's neutral. Except, he also says, samaham sarvabhuteshu, name dveshtosti na priyaha, ye bhajanti tumam bhakta, mai te teshu chapyaham. That I envy no one, nor am I partial to anyone. I'm equal to everyone, but whoever renders service to me in devotion is in me and I'm within him. So Krishna says, yes, I'm neutral in the material world, but don't expect me to be aloof from my devotees. The king may be neutral to all his citizens, but he takes special care of his children. So therefore, Krishna's impartiality is not always there because he's God. He makes the laws and we follow them. So he says, I'm completely impartial. And then when Arjuna is on the battlefield and Krishna has promised he's not going to take part in the battlefield, and when Arjuna, his friend, is in difficulty, he picks up a wheel and starts fighting, or at least is about to fight. So it looks like he's breaking his word. He says he's impartial, and now he's taking the side of his friend. I guess he can't control himself or something. His mind is uncontrolled. He's like, that's what this chapter is all about, by the way. Well, the previous chapter. The god, Hiranyakashipu, is accusing him of being just like a little child. With a little child, you can get him to do anything if you give him, a little piece of candy. You can get him to do anything because he has no discrimination. So the demigods, they bribe God, Krishna, with a little bit of prayer or something. And he comes and fights and kills innocent people, like his little brother. He's just wandering around the universe, doing his thing, and then God comes and kicks him and kills him. Because he was instigated by the demigods. But he's very juvenile in his approach. Just because of a little prayer, he does whatever he's directed. So here again, this idea that, why is God doing this? Why did my husband be killed by the laws of providence? He's such a nice person, he didn't do anything wrong, which everyone thinks. Why should anything happen to me? That I'm a nice person. I'm even serving Krishna, doing exactly what I'm serving him selflessly, and then as a result, he puts me in a difficult situation. So why in the world would I want to worship this person? You serve him, you give him everything, he turns around and kicks you, like Bali Maharaj. Bali Maharaj, he offered Vamanadeva out of his kindness 3 steps of land. Because that's what he asked for. He gave him what he wanted. He only asked for 3 steps. Then he turns into this Trivikram, takes 3 steps, covers the whole universe. And then Bali offers his head as the final step, because he already covered the whole universe with his first 2 steps. And then God, Krishna, Trivikram, he puts his foot on Bali's head, and Bali surrenders. And what does he do? Oh, thank you very much. You're so kind. You gave me everything, the whole universe. No one usually gives me the whole universe. You give me a piece of a flower, a little fruit, but you gave me a universe. That's a pretty good offering. No, he takes his foot and pushes down to Sutala. First of all, he binds him with the ropes of Varuna, and then he embarrasses him in front of his wife and his father, or his grandfather. Then he pushes him down into Sutala. What kind of God is this? How grateful is he? You offer him a leaf, and he says, thank you. You offer him a universe, and he kicks you. But actually, Bali got a better deal than he would have gotten as the ruler of the heavenly planets. Because there, Vamanadeva became his Dora man, and he did kick someone. He kicked, Hiranyakashipu. Actually, he kicked Ravana out of Sutala when he came to visit. And Bali got a planet where there was no problems. Otherwise, you're Lord of the universe, the heavenly planets. You got so many problems. You got so many duties you got to do. Make sure the rain and the wind and the sunlight are coming on time. Everyone's getting what they deserve. The demons are coming to throw you out. But if you have God as your doorkeeper, you don't have anything to worry about. He makes sure that people who aren't supposed to get in don't get in. Even if they disguise themselves, he's in their heart. He can understand who they really are. So we can't understand. Krishna is not under, as it says here, in one sense, he says the whole universe is under my control and I'm impartial and therefore whatever happens, people get their just deserve. He can't blame me. On the other hand, when dealing with the devotees, he interferes if necessary. But not always. He interferes at the right time. Prahlad Maharaj was being tortured. He was simply chanting Hare Krishna, preaching Krishna's message, and the result is that his father threw him over his father had him put into a pit of snakes, into a den of demons who were trying to kill him with weapons. He threw him over a cliff, had him underneath an elephant, put him in freezing cold and also blazing hot. And Krishna didn't do anything, apparently. But he protected Prahlad. Prahlad just went on chanting because he wasn't affected. When you come to this platform of prema, then you get mystic powers. Even if you don't want them, they're there automatically, they manifest. And so Krishna manifested the mystic powers. Otherwise, Prahlad, how could he survive being thrown over a cliff or being stomped by an elephant or in freezing cold? And he wasn't even aware of what was happening because ultimately we're not the doer. Krishna is, through his energies, is doing everything. So if Krishna wants, by his internal energy, he can manifest all these mystic powers for his devotee. And if he wants, when Durvasa Muni is throwing this blazing fire weapon at Ambarish Maharaj, then Krishna can also not disturb Ambarish by giving him mystic power, set his sacrifice and his equanimity. Instead, he throws his own weapon and burns the fiery demon and chases after Durvasa Muni for a year. So Krishna can do whatever he wants, and if he did the same thing every time, it would be rather boring. There wouldn't be any reason to have the Srimad Bhagavatam. You just read one story and you know what the conclusion of all the other stories are. But Krishna likes variegated pastimes and shows different aspects of his personality. And here, something Prabhupada was emphasizing, the personality, the aspect of his independence, rather than the aspect of everyone getting exactly what they deserve. He could have explained, in the previous lifetime, the king had, as we find in the Bhagavatam, when Ketu had his son, that Harsha Marsha, Harsha is joy, Amarsha, lamentation. He had a son, although he had 10 million wives, but none of them can give him any children. But somehow or another, by the blessings of Narada Muni and his Parvata Muni, he got some opportunity to get a child. But Kaduti, his wife, was very happy. And he was happy. The kingdom was happy. But the other 9,999,999 wives were quite disturbed because the king didn't pay any attention to them. I don't know how much attention he paid anyhow. Anyhow, his attention diminished for his other 9,999,999 wives. So they became envious. And they poisoned Harsha Marsha. And therefore, although he's the source of great joy, when he was born, he became the source of great lamentation when he left his body. So, Krishna, Narada Muni came back with Parvata Muni, find out what's going on because the whole kingdom was crying. And he brought back his son to life. And he said, why did you leave? He said, well, I did my bit. I did what I wanted to do. In the last lifetime, I was a opponent on the war field with this king, and he killed me. So I came back to cause him pain. Now that I've caused him enough pain, I think I'm going to go. First of all, he said, he said, don't, your father and mother are concerned. He said, which father and mother? I had so many fathers and mothers. And then, this one, that's the one I came to give some pain to. So we can see that, why was this little kid killed? He was so innocent. He was this little boy. He didn't do anyone any harm, and he got killed. Well, then we find out the reason why he died is he wanted to die. He wanted to torture the king and this lady. So we can point out how this king is lying in the battlefield, what it was his karma, etc., etc. This the boy in the form of Yamaraj could have told exactly, his last lifetime, what he did, or the previous lifetime. But no, this is what Krishna did. You don't like it? Tough. Write a letter to him. I'll give you his email address. Now that's the way God works. If you don't like it, then what to do? Like Bhumi the cow, she was being beaten, and Dharma was being beaten by the Shudra. And when Parikshit Maharaj asked, well, why? What's the cause? Dharma wouldn't answer, because ultimately the cause is Krishna. And she didn't want to, I guess it was she didn't want to accuse Krishna. She understood as somehow or another I'm involved, karma is involved, everything's involved, but ultimately the decision is up to Krishna. So, and if you blame Krishna, then you get into trouble. And you also become implicated. So don't ask so many questions sometimes. So I'll stop there. Thank you. Any questions? Yes. You can ask questions.
You mentioned how the demigods, their occupation is to take care of universal affairs, and that sounds like quite a responsibility. So, on the other hand, what about the demons? What is their prescribed duty, or what are they doing?
What are they doing? Eating, sleeping, mating, defending, and disturbing the demigods. Demon means you want to take over and enjoy more. But when Hiranyakashipu took over the universe, he installed his own friends as the controllers of the elements. And he by his mystic power, he more or less made all the other arrangements. So he got into the heavenly planets, he took over Indra's work, and therefore he had to work harder. And because of that, he was in anxiety, he always was intoxicated. He wasn't used to such hard work. After all, he just stood in one place for 120 years doing nothing. And when he finally got a job, he wasn't used to it. Yes.
Hare Krishna. Is there a way to explain the necessity of death in this material world? What positive is there about everything being destroyed and people having to die, every creature having to die?
Well, while we're living, as Krishna said, Sattva Nirupa Sarvasha Shara Bhavati Bharata Sharomayo Yo Purusham Yo Yat Shara Seva Saha. According to one's existence under the three modes of nature, one involves a particular kind of faith. And according to that faith, one will act and evolve another faith. So when we're acting in the material world, we're evolving our desires. And because this body will not be suitable to fulfill the desires we're evolving, therefore we have to die to take a body that will fulfill those desires. Otherwise it wouldn't be possible. Yes.
Why do we doubt Krishna, devotees, holy name, scriptures? And then maybe we even think that we overcame these doubts, and then we again see that they're still there.
Well, because we're not advanced enough, that's all. That's what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Maya Sattamanak Partha Yogam Yunja Manashaya Asamshayam Samagramam Yata Jasati Tatshadu. Hear from me, O son of Pritha, how by practicing yoga in full consciousness of me, with mind attached to me, you can know me in full, free from doubt. So, because we don't really accept completely that Krishna is the proprietor, that Krishna is the enjoyer, and that Krishna is the friend, therefore, Maya is there, because we're attached to these doubts. Maybe Krishna is not the enjoyer, Krishna may not be the proprietor, Krishna may not be the best friend of everyone, including me. Maybe I have something. Maybe I own something. I could own something. Maybe I could enjoy something. Maybe I'm actually benefiting others, not Krishna. So am I, because we're attached to these conceptions. Therefore, we don't realize Krishna, and therefore we doubt whether he exists to some degree or another. Is that right? Yes.
Thank you, Maharaj. Your lecture was on, you were commenting on the comment of the verse, and in the comment, the tone, dare I say, was rather cynical. Krishna can do whatever he wants, and if I understood correctly, if we understood what he does, then anyway he wouldn't be supreme. So by that argument, Srila Prabhupada might wanted to say, get over it with this theodicy and with all these things. Anyway, Krishna is everything. He is whether good or bad. What choice do we have? I mean,
no, probably. No. I don't think you understood it. I don't think you. It's hard to understand. If he were answerable to us concerning why he does something and why he does not, his supremacy would be curtailed. If he had to go to you and ask something,
he was obliged.
Yeah, then how could he be supreme? Then you'd be supreme.
But I like that interpretation. That's why it would make things simpler. Krishna is there; he is absolute, and whatever he is, you are here. What choice do you have? Why don't we argument like this? It would make simpler for the conditioned soul, maybe, or
not. Because then we would be robots. We would have to think. Everything would be real simple, just like a robot doesn't. Everything's real simple. You just type in, say yes, and it goes yes. But we're not robots, so things are a little bit more complicated. There's personalities, individualities, there's free will, there's so many things. Because ultimately love is variegated also and free. That's so simple. Otherwise, how do we explain that Krishna is under the control of Radharani, his energy? Try and figure that out. Radharani is completely under Krishna's control, but she controls Krishna. Everything she does is to please him, but he's completely under her control. Anyhow, think about it. All right, thank you very much. Krantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Premanande.